Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to this week's Weekly D, where I have the gorgeous Jordan Kensely on with me, and we're going to be talking about everything shadow banning because it's one of the things that I get asked most about with social media is how can I avoid a shadow ban? How can I do this? How can I do that? And the truth is that neither of us really have the answer, but we do have some theories. So, without further ado, this is the Weekly D. Because, honey, if you ain't getting your D on the daily, you better at least be getting it once on the weekly.
If you're not getting any and you want some tea, then come and join Dan up on the Weekly D. It's the Weekly D.
Hey Jordan, thank you for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to speak to you. I've had you on my podcast before. What you been up to? I know you've been traveling around in your van, living your best
hmm
life. So are you not living anywhere at the moment? Are you literally living in the van, or do you have somewhere where you're living still?
Kind of both. So I own a condo in Tucson, and right now my friend is renting my condo from me and living there while we are full time in the van, and we won't
Fun.
be back home until August.
Oh my God, that's so cool. Are you doing it as like a workshop tour or something, or you're just
Yeah, so kind
seeing
of
the
both.
world?
Kind of both. Originally, when I planned this, my ADHD was like, teach every single weekend. And then that didn't work out. And now I'm like so thrilled because I'm already like, that's too much. Like, I just want to relax and chill. So for the first 2 weekends, I did workshops, and then I have 3 weeks off where I get to mosey around like the middle of the country, seeing it, and visiting like my family and stuff. And then I'm heading to I have workshops in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and then PolCon in Baltimore. And then from there, I'm going to mosey over to see the rest of my family in Ohio, hopefully hit workshops so I don't have to hang out with them all very often. Um, and then my cousin-in-law on my partner's side is getting married in June, and then we're going to do a little mini family trip. And then July, I'll be doing workshops every weekend. So it's kind of both a workshop tour and a reason to bring my cats.
Well, yeah, I mean, but also we got bills to pay still, right? You know,
Exactly.
gotta pay them bills. But do you find sorry, everyone who's
No,
listening to
that's
this and
okay.
is like who's like, get on with the social media chat. We're gonna get to that in a minute. But actually I just want to ask you, with the whole like workshop tour thing, I noticed that the workshop culture is very different in the US. Like, do you find like there is much demand for like traveling artists in the US who are US born? Because that's one thing I don't really see so much.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. Pre 2020, I would have told you no. It was really difficult for me to get booked at all in 2020, like before 2020, but a majority of that had more to do with the culture here was very morality driven. And so sexy style was not accepted except in a very specific version of it that was more classique. So pre 2020, most of my tours were international because y'all just like your smut and I'm here to give it. But
Yeah,
post 2020, I find that we have more we just have more people touring in general post 2020 around the globe, and a lot of them are now US based. And so it is getting not quite as saturated as I would think Europe still is. A lot of people
right.
come out of Europe and the UK. But in terms of demand for me, I found so far that studios are really excited to host me in a van. For the most part, they all have places for me to stay, and it's only been like one or two places that don't offer very much street parking because it's a city based situation that have had like some difficulty of like, you'll have to get an RV spot at some camp and we'll just pick you up. But yeah, so far I've
Which is
been,
still actually pretty convenient though, right?
I'm,
Like,
I'm thrilled about it. And
yeah,
I prefer to do it because I don't like how many of us live in a place where we can actually host somebody without like them just being on our couch or like we're giving up our bed for them. And I don't enjoy being like a burden
right.
on people, especially when you're taking me in. I feel like it should be more mutually beneficial than it has been previously in my experience. So in this way, I really appreciate the van because I get to bring my cats and my family along. And then two, I'm not like imposing myself onto
But
people, which I
also,
find is nice.
can we just say as well, and this is something that I don't think traveling pole dance to talk about enough, and it's something that I'm having to just be really open and honest with people about now. Is that I just have a certain standard of what I like to sleep in. And I know that sounds really bad, but like different people have different living situations, no
Hmm.
problems with that at all. When I go to workshops now, I always almost insist on a hotel, only because you kind of know what you're going to get from a hotel. You know, sometimes you can turn up to someone's house, it's like a fucking palace, and I'm like, oh my god, this place is amazing. And other times it's not, and that's okay, no problem. But yeah, it's one really difficult thing. It's like, how do you have that conversation with someone?
Oh,
But
and it
yeah,
feels rude too because you're like,
right,
yeah, I just need my space. And as an introvert, like I'm naturally an introvert until I get into a class scenario or some type of very
yeah,
specified environment, and then I'll become an extrovert because I know what's expected of me. But it's really draining to like teach workshops all day, and then still have to be on because your
right,
host wants you to be on. And I'm here for it. Like, thank you. I'm just a
yeah,
person, but like I'll
right,
take the compliments. But yeah, I personally am just happy with whatever, but I also grew up with a nomadic. My mom is a flight attendant, so I grew up in a more nomadic environment in general. So I'm very easygoing with that. But I definitely have friends who, like you, are like, I need a hotel. I need my space. I need to be able to shut off. And I find too that sometimes I've spoken to studio hosts who are personal friends of mine, and they've had experiences where they've also felt like they had to consistently be on, or they also feel obligated to like show us around town or make sure that we're always doing something. And that doesn't feel genuine either. I would rather just like go hang out and have a coffee and meet you there and like
yeah.
just chat like we're hanging out instead of like the obligation of like I'm staying in your home, so now you have to make sure that I'm comfortable, and I feel like I have to make sure you're comfortable and nobody's comfortable.
Yeah, it's
Yay.
really funny whenever I have like pole dancers stay with me, I'm always like, listen, you can go to your room. You don't have to talk to me because I get it. I'm like, you go and like be on your own. You're welcome to join us. We're going to watch TV. Do you want to join us? Do you want to eat with us? Or if you just want to go and sit in your room and just do nothing, I encourage it because I know how that feels. But you know what though? Mine actually is a really weird reason because I've got this weird phobia, right? And I didn't realize it was even a phobia until recently. And people are going to laugh when they hear this, but genuinely, I think it is like an actual phobia. I've got this phobia of shitting in the same room or near to someone who can hear me. I don't know why.
Yes.
I don't like it. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. And I have held my shits for ages before because I've been so scared of people hearing, and I hate that, and I can't stand it. Whereas in a hotel room, I can shit in peace. I can just like do, that sounds so stupid, doesn't it? It sounds so stupid,
No,
but
it's real. It's
oh
real.
my
I feel the
god,
same
it's
way.
yeah, literally. I just want to shit in peace. Is that so much to ask? You know?
Especially when you have to share a bathroom and you're both like, we have to get to the studio at the same time because you're my
Right.
ride. And I'm like, cool. So it's either here or the studio. And neither of those options are very private.
Well, this is why. So, like, I will say to people when I have to share a room with them, I'm very honest at the beginning. So, my friend Ali, who travels with me, we just have this agreement now. If it's shit time, one of us has to leave the room and go onto the balcony, or has to leave the room and go somewhere else. And actually, it works really, really well. But
Yeah.
so stupid. But that's actually another one of the reasons why I just hate staying with people because I'm just like, oh god, when am I going to be able to shit? But yeah. Anyway, enough shit talk. Let's move on to a different type of shit talking. So before we move into this next section, we are going to be talking about shadow banning, and I'm just going to give a little trigger warning for anyone who is affected by politics or anything like that, that obviously shadow banning is going to cover politics because so much of it is political. So just be warned that some politics is going to be discussed. And if you came here for a slagging match between me and Jordan, unfortunately, you came to the wrong place. Yes, we do have some very differing opinions on this, but that's why we're here, is to talk about those, to hear different sides of the story. I think it's really, really important. I think it's an important way for me to learn, at least. That's the way I always feel about it. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what you've got to say. But for anyone who's come here for drama, you've come to the wrong place because there's only love here, okay?
We save that for the Instagram and engagement only. Thank
We
you.
save that for the comments, everyone. It's so funny as well when people see comments, because the only reason actually, the reason why I reached out to you when we were doing these comments on that post that I made,
Oh, it was so
and I
heated.
and I messaged you like straight away, and I was like, just a check. We're still cool, right? You're like, of course. And it was only because someone messaged me and was like, do you and Jordan not get along? I'm like, of course. And then I saw the comments and I was like, oh, I'm just going to check in just in case. Even though I knew in my head, I was like, everything's fine, I'm sure. But this is going to be a really interesting thing to talk about. I mean, let's go back. When was your first recollection of having a shadow ban or some sort of restriction on your account?
2015.
Right. Tell us about
And
it.
it was before. And so one of the reasons I personally believe that I responded so aggressively is because what I was told is that I wasn't being shadow banned. I'm making it up. The shit that I'm posting is just shit. And then fast forward 2 years and so that 2015 goes in line with a policy that was passed in the federal government that actively affected Instagram, but it was primarily affecting sex workers. And then in 2016, 2017, there's another policy that was passed. And that's when the entirety of the community started recognizing that there was a shadow ban, because this one affected the internet as a whole instead of just sex workers specifically. And then
Right.
in 2019, now you're really seeing that even celebrities are being shadow banned, and it's all for the same policy building to save the children, which they shouldn't. Like, how is that even my fucking problem? But whatever.
Why are you letting your children on Instagram anyway?
Thank you.
But
Like, it
like,
doesn't make sense.
I really there was a period I remember a lot of people talking about on your Instagram profile. You can change the settings to say that your content is of like an adult, not adult nature, but it was like it was supposed to be for 18. Does that still exist?
I'm not sure if it existed, but I do know that it actively shadow bans you if you choose that option. So,
Right, okay. So, because I don't even remember seeing that button now, because I remember, see, the difficulty is that I've never really done the stripper style pole, so I've never really been majorly affected because I wear quite a lot of clothes when I pole as well. So, I know there are a lot of guys who do have more skin on show that also get these bans, but I have been shadow banned and actually it was for a full year. I actually almost got my account deleted for it because I posted a naked picture of myself, but the naked picture, I
scandal.
had an emoji covering me. But the problem is, right, and I could only assume because I researched as much as I could, but I couldn't find anything. I believe that when you put a picture into Instagram and then put stickers over it, they don't
Mhm.
look at the picture with the sticker over it. They look at the picture underneath the sticker. So they don't give a fuck what you've put over the top of it. So if you've got a porn picture and you've put some stickers over it, the system doesn't see the stickers. It just sees the image you've input. So then I remember reading up on it and someone had said that actually you would have been better to have edited the photo out of the app and then put it in, which was fucking stupid of me, really. I don't know why I didn't know that, but
Or
live and you
edit in the
learn.
app, save it, and then repost it
Right.
as a saved photo.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so I never ever changed my account to be the like 18 plus profile, but I remember there were a lot of strip style pole dancers that were posting about it because at the time, and Instagram's changed, like at the time, do you remember there was a period where you could find out if you were shadow banned by doing a post, using a hashtag, and then going straight to that hashtag and seeing if you showed up. But now you can't do that, can you?
No, so it just doesn't work the same way. I have multiple pages that I've written so that
If
I
you
can
hear if
keep
you
us
hear
on track.
pages turning, it's
So,
Jordan going through her book she wrote for us.
yeah, so basically at this point, what we're seeing is a difference between a community guideline break and an action block. And that's what I was also discussing on your most recent post, is that I'm getting action blocks, and that would be considered like the next level of hell in the shadow ban
Can you just
versus,
tell people what that means? Just we have to put a
yeah.
lot of this. We do have to put in layman's terms, only because some people don't actually know what an action block is. I know what you mean, but just in case anyone doesn't.
Yeah, so a shadow ban would be something that you are specifically going against community guidelines, and that's what you can physically see when you go to check your status. Is if you're shadow banned, it's because of community guideline breach or terms of service breach, and they will let you know that. An action block is when the software assumes that you have been, for all intents and
A
purposes,
dirty
acting like
little
a
girl.
robot. Yeah, you're engaging too much. And so depending on the level of shadow bans, how many times you've breached terms of service, what have you, or if they've already deemed that your account is inappropriate, as if you have chosen that you're already 18 and plus over, that's an automatic you're inappropriate. We won't show you. You're not only getting shadow banned, but you're not able to engage. And that's what an action block is they're blocking your ability to like, comment, share, post, DM people. Any actions that you can use on that server is blocked from happening. Versus a shadow ban is just a demotion of your account to the general public.
Right. So, because you were one of the first people I'd actually heard talk about this, like not being able to do certain functions. Although I guess in some weird ways I've experienced it myself. Although I don't consider that my account's really been flagged so much as some other people's, because I know some people have really suffered with it. But I definitely have certain features that it's not letting me use. Have you ever had that? You know, when you go and you're like, people are, oh, like broadcasts. Like one of my
Yeah, that's an
friends, she
action
she
block.
can do she can do broadcasts and I can't. I'm like, why? I don't understand. And I don't know
Oh,
whether
I
it's
can't
because
do
I've
lives.
only just like, oh yes, I couldn't do lives. That's happened to me as well. I had that on Polos actually. I was like Polos was not allowed to do lives for ages, but then it came back super randomly.
Yeah, so the action blocks have different levels of block, and I wrote down this website. So smartproxy.com, SMARTPROXY.com, did a deep dive on what this is, and they give you different options of like, here's how you can stop using a shadow or stop the shadow block or an action block from happening, what have you. But basically, if you have too many similar types of engagement, whether you are being engaged with or you are engaging yourself. So if I get too many comments, then I get blocked from being able to like or comment back and reply because it's basically blocking my account. They want to demote me. I've already gotten an action block. And it can go from anywhere from 12 hours to multiple weeks on end. And because it's an action block and not a terms of service break, they don't have to tell you anything and they do not have to give you an appeal. And most often, if it's a new concept and they'll let you know, they'll be like, oh, we are restricting this because we've deemed your account unsafe for the community, what have you. You can start using like actions again in 12 hours and 72 hours in 7 days. And I've gotten blocked for like 3 weeks at a time before from posting. It's one of the reasons that I can't post very often anymore.
Do you ever think
And
about
it's
just starting your profile again and just seeing?
Nope, because new accounts are more likely to have action blocks as they are automatically deemed a bot until they are proven otherwise.
Well, that's so again, like, because I've been doing like such a deep dive on this as well. Like, not so much literature reading. I'm mainly just while I'm driving, I'm listening to people talk about it on YouTube and podcasts. But someone had said the other day that she believed that the best way to get rid of it was just to restart your account, just to restart it and not bother. Because she was basically talking to someone who had like, I think it was like 30,000 followers, but just was so stuck and it just wouldn't move. And she kept getting notifications about content being flagged, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, honestly, I think you just need to just delete that account and just start again.
So with shadow bans, it makes sense. But with that being said, if your IP address is the same, so you're using the same phone with the same data network or the same Wi-Fi password, or not Wi-Fi password, Wi-Fi network, then they're still going to block your account because they're going off of IP address.
So where have you read that? Because I've not read that anywhere.
Yeah, so that's also Smart Proxy. And then you can also look that up on the humanrightswatch.org. And they specifically did a deep dive on shadow banning because Instagram came out against political content. And what it does is basically like, it's a form of stealth demotion, more or less. And with that being said, it's very much it's all computer generated. Like it's all a software and you can create a software to do anything that you
Right.
want more or less. And so if it's basing it off of your IP address, because I have multiple accounts and I have tried to start over and I even have a private account. If you're a public account, then you're more likely to get banned for terms of service and you're more likely to get action blocks versus a private account. But if you're a private account, then you're not getting the engagement because you're not being shown on any of the hashtags, any of the follow me pages, any of your home screen stuff,
Yeah, well,
whatnot.
it's funny because as well though, it's like if you like when you block someone and it says block them and any future accounts they make, I think it does that based on, because this is the thing, this is where it gets confusing. Because obviously, in your Instagram profile, you can go down to the settings and just put create new profile, and then you create this
Yeah,
new
but you're using
profile.
the same IP address, and
Right,
that's how they're
exactly.
blocking it.
Exactly, yeah. But then if you apparently if you then use a different like email and contact number and stuff in your actual what's it called? Like when you're creating the profile, when you create a new profile, it won't so that then wouldn't be blocked. So if someone had blocked you and you created a new account, that account would still be blocked because it's still under and associated with the same email. But I think if you create a new one, something I probably need to check actually, and like maybe even test out because I've been blocked by a few people, so I'm sure I'll be able to check. Do you know what I mean? Like, but
Yep.
why do you think those? I feel like it's obviously way bigger than pole dancers. Let's not flatter ourselves. You know, it's not about pole dancers, right? And I know a lot of
No.
people are like, why are they attacking pole dancers? And like, guys, it's way bigger than that. Like, it's nothing to do with pole dancers. It's just we fall into that category, right? So, what were these? What were these
Policies.
laws and these
Yeah.
policies? What were they set up for? Like, what was it?
So, yeah, so they're all forms of really they're all forms of online censorship is what it is, with the guise of protecting children or protecting information, protecting our citizens, what have you. And you can see this very clearly with what's happening in the US right now against TikTok, because it's not an American owned company, so they cannot put through
Control it.
all of our censorship options, and they can't control what's being shared because it's not owned by an American company. So the first one that affects us is was put in place in 1996. And that's the Communications Decency Act. And basically, internet server providers are protected from liability for actions taken to restrict any offensive material. So we have no recourse as users of these applications or these internet providers like Instagram or even Verizon or AT&T. They're all Comcast. They're all internet providing services. We have no recourse for action in terms of them censoring our content. And the specific section within that bill is Section 230. They have since deemed a majority of the Communications Decency Act unconstitutional, except for Section 230, which is very much specifically the recourse that citizens and customers of that application can take. The next one would be, or another one would be the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which basically makes it a federal crime to violate terms of service.
Hmm.
And that's where a lot of the IP address situation comes in, is basically corporations are required by law to remove or limit access to obscene content that is harmful to children, which is gambling, prostitution, solicitation, IP theft. And it's the IP theft that is activated through your IP address and how they're blocking all of your additional accounts. So those are the earliest options. Where we really start to see an effect in terms of Instagram starts in 2015. And that's with oh God, I love the way that I love the way that our government, and by love I mean that so sarcastically, our government likes to create really cute sounding bills for censorship. Like this one is called the SAVE Act, and it's Stop Advertising Victims of Exploitation. And basically, it makes it illegal to knowingly advertise content related to sex trafficking, including online solicitation. It also creates a federal level liability for third party content, which means the site provider is liable for sex trafficking. So that's where we first started seeing all of the sex workers and sexy style pole dancers, burlesque dancers, politics, queer people, what have you, anything that would have been deemed at that time, because at that point, I don't believe we even had any consistency in queer rights in the US at all. So queer rights even, or Black Lives Matter, all of these different social movements would have also been deemed unsafe for children and exploiting people in the process. So they all would have been demoted because Instagram would be liable for any of their solicitation as a third party, which basically would make them a pimp.
But
So then moving,
what age are they classing as children? Because this is where it gets confusing to me. Because you're not supposed to be under. Well, how old are you allowed to be to sign up to Instagram?
13 and under. So that goes
Ah,
into I want to say, where is it? Stop advertising. I wrote it down. Yeah, so around 2011 and 2012 is when they restricted the age of use for certain platforms to 13 years old. But that still counts. So basically, in the US, 12 years of age is the federal age of consent. And that includes sexual consent, which means we still have states that allow child marriages to adults, which don't even necessarily require parental acceptance. You can just go in front of a judge and be like, I want to marry this kid. And the judge can be like, no problem, go for it. And you can do that in like, I think almost 36 states in the
Oh,
US.
I thought that was all. I thought that had all changed. That's still the case now.
Yeah, the
Wow,
federal age of consent is 12. So
that is so
the
weird, isn't it?
federal baseline for most online service providers is 13. And so, but
Hmm.
children in the US are classified as 18 and under. So you have
Right. I
about
didn't know if
5
there was the
years,
25 thing because you can't drink them until you're 25, is it?
21.
21. Sorry. Yeah, 21.
Same,
Um,
same difference.
right. But like, yeah. So I just okay. So there are technically children on Instagram, right? Because I was like, why are they protecting children that aren't supposed to be on the app? But I guess obviously, I mean, there are, and to be honest, let's talk about the fact that there's also kids on there who are definitely under that age as well
Oh,
that are just setting
100%.
up profiles, which is not cool. So,
Well, it's also not our responsibility to parent your child. Like, I'm a grown
right,
ass adult that doesn't have kids. So why do I care what your kid is doing? That's not my responsibility.
right. So, what would you say to someone who said, and this is something that I know you've definitely addressed before, but I'm going to just say it as it's been said. What would you say to someone who's like, well, we don't own this platform. We have to abide by the rules.
I mean, it's true. Unfortunately, it's true, but that's why paying attention to and state level and federal government matters, is because that's where we're getting, like, that's the start of where we're getting censored, especially in the US. It's actually different for you guys over in the UK and in the EU because you have different laws against censorship. So Instagram has to abide by those international laws in your region. So you guys are less likely to get shadow banned than people in the US
I
because your
was,
government has actually protected you from censorship online.
well, I was going to ask about that because you would think that actually we would have to play by the American rules because it's an American company, right?
Yes.
But
So you
they,
do to an extent. And that's
okay,
why most likely the UK and the EU dancers experienced the shadow ban at a much later timeline than the US based dancers. Or
hmm,
even like again, political pages, social activist groups, queer and marginalized profiles, what have you. And it's definitely, like you said, also in our online heated discussion, um, it's per page for sure. It's how much traction are you getting, and then that's also like if you go viral with one video, they can't backtrack that because you're currently in the public's eye. But if you grow your platform slowly, the way that we used to pre 2015, then that's where you're going to get more likely to be shadow banned because you're not getting that engagement. They can slowly decrease engagement. They can start unfollowing on the community's behalf because they've deemed your account problematic, what have you. And
hmm.
so you'll have people like, I think I've had to refollow you like 3 or 4 times throughout our
Well,
online relationship.
it's really funny because young Pole Master, for example, I always use him as an example because he always posts about how many bans and stuff he gets on his account. And I mean, he's even had his account deleted before, and like crazy shit has happened to his account. The problem that I have is not so I do understand. I think this is where that maybe my communication was bad because I tried to keep the video really, really short, but I obviously understand. I'm very knowledgeable that the shadow bans exist. I understand they are affecting people. I think my issue is that people like to complain about the shadow ban and be like, oh, no one comments or likes on my post. It's because I'm so severely shadow banned. And I'll watch the video and I'll be like, well, for me, like I wouldn't know really how to engage with that if I did see it. But then you look at people like Young Pole Master. I think Anna Kia has also said that she's been, heavily shadow banned as well. But if you go into their comments, it's flooded with comments. Don't get me wrong, they do have hundreds of thousands of followers. That probably makes a massive difference. But I think because they're actually providing content that is it's giving people something to actually talk about. I feel like that's where we're missing stuff with social media. And that's actually why my social media has changed so much over the last, probably like this beginning of this, since the beginning of this year, is because I want to, incite meaningful conversations. I want to help people. I want, people to get something from my page, because I get a lot from the people that follow me, in the sense that, they buy my products, they sign up to my classes and stuff. So I thought, well, I should really be, rather than just posting combos, because I just noticed that when I posted a combo, I'd never really get comments on it. What do you comment? What do you say? Wow, amazing.
Fire.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we know, right? But I think people like you and I, we know how important engagement is. So I feel like people like us are probably way better at commenting. Sometimes I'll comment on someone's video, even if it's really not my thing, and I've maybe not watched the whole thing, but I know that person needs some support. I might just comment some fire emojis or whatever, just so that hopefully just gives them a little boost and maybe makes their numbers a little bit more plump, But I just feel like people like to always go to blaming the shadow ban, when actually, the reason their content isn't doing as well is because the content isn't what their followers are looking for. Don't you wrong? Like, yes, they're not going to get new people to see their content. That I can't change. And I always keep saying to people, because people are like, oh, please help me, like, because I'm really, really shadow banned. I'm like, babes, I can't do anything about that because I'm not Instagram. But what I can do is maybe at least help you change the content you're providing to see if maybe your current following will be willing to share it. Because this is the thing, like, my content when I was shadow banned, my following just kept dropping. And then when I changed the style of content I was making, I noticed, I mean, don't get me wrong, slowly, but I noticed I was actually managing to get to people because people were sharing my stuff. And then I was like, fuck, this is the way around the shadow ban, is to create shareable content. That's the only way you're going to get seen, I think, is if someone shares your shit. Hey, what's up everyone? I just wanted to interrupt this episode with a quick little bit of information on my online business, The Pole Destroyers. If you haven't found out about it already, The Pole Destroyers is an online platform which provides strength and conditioning coaching for pole online from the comfort of your own home. And I can't tell you how many pole dancers I meet on a daily basis who aren't able to achieve some of their dream moves because they aren't strong enough. And now you can be, by training from the comfort of your own home with this strength and conditioning program. Many people got a lot of success from my 31-day program, which you are able to access on demand, and you can also do live classes with me. But the thing that I love about this program is that each class has an individual theme. So we do all sorts of different themed classes. We have the Pole Destroyers quiz, we have choreo cardio, we have flip the coin, dice of doom. My cat Roxy teaches a class. Yes, cats can teach conditioning. You will be gobsmacked. It's just a really good, fun way to do conditioning at a really cost-effective price. So if that's something that you're interested in, please do go and check out thepoledestroyers.com or head to my Instagram at DanRosenPole and feel free to DM me with any questions you have. Anyway, let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I guess my only issue is that as somebody who has been on Instagram long enough that I didn't start as using it as a marketing tool. I just started as it just being a place where I can share my shit that I like to share. And then personally, and this is very personally now, I'm not going to stop sharing content from other accounts that I think are relevant today, because I am very politically active. I am very socially active, and I'm not going to stop sharing those things because I want people to be aware of what's happening in the world. So that's how I personally use my account, but it is also actively putting me into the ban list, putting me into the block list, to the point now where even if I'm sharing content, you can't click on the content that I'm sharing necessarily. So I'll share someone's reel and it won't be clickable.
Do you
but
remember
with what
when
you're
during
saying,
COVID, like if you shared something about and you wrote COVID, it would say, "Oh, this could be false news," kind of thing.
false information.
Yeah.
Yep, that has to do with the Earn It Act in 2019.
But like, do you think that what do you think is worse? Do you think people that are posting political content is worse, or people posting inverted brackets sexual content is worse?
In terms of what's getting banned more likely?
Yeah, like what do you think is getting you banned? Be honest. Do you think, because if
political content?
I was going to
Because
say, I'm glad you said
know,
that, because I don't feel like your content is as spicy as some of the people that I see. Like, and don't
No,
wrong, I
I've
love that content,
acted.
by the way.
Thank you. I've actively adjusted how I post my own content and what I post in my content. I'm still getting a few moments where I'm getting solicitation or sexually suggestive shadow blocks on some of my content. Like I have one video that I refuse to take down because it's slutty, but I'm covered and you can fuck off Instagram and I'll appeal
Mm,
it every day. But for me personally, it's definitely the political content. But I will say in general, I don't know if I don't have it in my brain to create and edit reels the way that other people do. And I'm also very much personally against giving away free information on the internet. If you want to pay me for that, I'm happy to give it. Or if it's generally just me speaking about something, then I'm here for it. But for people who are listening, if you're trying to create engagement, then the shit that you're going to want to post is 4 ways to get up from a sit, or
yeah,
try this combo and tag me, how'd it go for you, like all of these like
right. It's
free
true.
access information, but I'm
Why
getting
don't
paid
you,
as a
why don't, I was going to say, why don't you like posting anything like that?
well, the biggest reason is I can't edit. My brain melts when it comes to editing. Like I've
I love that
literally
you're just
sat
being
with
so honest about that. You're like, do you know what? It's nothing to do with that I want to get paid. It's that I just can't edit.
I literally have been like, fuck, how am I going to make a reel? Like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I can't even cut this musically. Like, what even is cool? And I just overthink everything. And then someone will do it and we'll collab. And I'm like, oh, bless you and your brain. Like, how did you even, and like the pew pews and like, oh, that was so musical. Like, I can't. I don't have it in my ADHD does not work like that. If you want to sick me on like a very specific topic, I will do all the research that you need and I will get it done within an hour. But if you ask me to create a reel, I'm still working on one from like 3 months ago
But social
and it'll
media
probably
isn't for
never
everyone,
post.
though, is it? It's a lot of fucking work.
It's so much work. And then I don't know if you remember when like bot usage was a huge no, like as if we aren't allowed to have our own free life and also engage on the internet. Like we're not allowed to do disingenuous commenting, what have you, which is understandable. I get that. But at the same time, how is it any different if I'm just posting fire emojis or if I'm having a bot post fire emojis? And now
Right.
you can't use bots at all because it's something that Instagram flags and will get you deleted or an action block on your account, which is again goes back to like if you're getting too much or you are engaging too much with the same type of engagement, then you're going to get an action block because you've been deemed a bot.
Well,
And
have you heard of, yeah, I think, although, yeah, and this is again, there's no real proof of it, but there's a website that people used to always tell me, oh, use this, it's a great way to save time. Hootsuite, have you heard of it? So Hootsuite is
Hootsuite will
basically,
get you blocked.
right, and I used to always tell people that as well, and now I'm never 100% sure when people ask me about it because I'm like, do you know what? Maybe it's changed. I don't know. But back when the shadow bans were first a thing, I was like, listen, if you use anything that's automated, it will block you. But what you can do, FYI, people, and it won't get you blocked because it's in app, is the scheduled function.
No, if you overuse that, you will still get an action block.
Oh, really? See,
Hmm.
I've never had problems with it.
It's
I've used it for a long time. I've never had issues. But
it's
again,
very specific to
this is the
like,
thing though. I just feel like it's different
yeah.
for different people. Do you not? Like, see, I've never had an issue with the schedule function. It's never
But
blocked me. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I feel like you're very good though at recognizing that engagement is not like the way that we have to engage changes almost yearly at this point. Whereas previously it was what you have to post 2 times a day, at least
Hmm.
3 times a week, and mostly share on your stories. Now, if you post twice a day, both of those are going to go down. So if you're just using it like once a day to help create posts, that's fine. But it's people who are like, oh, I'm scheduling this multiple times a day. I'm scheduling
Right,
this every day this week, and I'm not actually being on Instagram. I'm going to have that post for me, and then I'm just going to engage. Those are all
right.
considered bot actions.
But yes, I don't know. I don't know necessarily that it's being blocked because of bot actions. I think it's being blocked because it's classed as spamming. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like,
That's
so like
considered a bot
a bot
action
action,
is
right? Okay,
spam.
fine. So yeah, it's like when I remember getting it once a long, long time ago, and obviously I had way too much time on my hands, but I'd commented too many times on posts, and it was like I can't remember what the warning was. It was something like you've commented too many times, so it wouldn't let me comment
Yeah.
anymore. And I remember thinking, oh, never had that come up. I've never had it come up since. But I don't know, I must have just been going crazy on comments or something that day. And yeah, it wouldn't let me comment anymore. But that again was years ago. See, what's your thoughts on that then? So why is it certain people experience such different bans to other people? Why is it not a flat out ban on if you're shadow banned, you're shadow banned, if you're not, you're not? Why do you think there's different levels for different people?
Yeah, so part of it comes down to where are you in the world? That's
Right,
like the
the
biggest
local
one.
policy and stuff.
Yes, and again, the like socialist governments have taken actions to protect their citizens from censorship, especially by American companies.
Right.
But taking that aside, I think a lot of it has to do with like my account has been getting flagged since 2015 versus I believe your account started getting flagged closer to 2017 is when most of the sport people started noticing that there was a shadow ban on their account. The hashtag PD situation all became very relevant. So
Yeah.
I've been getting shadow banned for 2 extra years longer than you. So my account in general already has like it's, you know what it's similar to? If you're coming to the US and they know that you've applied for a work visa and then you try to come in as a tourist during the same dates, they've already flagged your account. So sure, they might let you in as a tourist, but you're going to have to go through additional hoops. And then worst case scenario, they've actually kicked you out. So now you can't even get in even 10 years later, or you have to wait 10 years. And now your account, like your passport itself has just been flagged in general. So you're going to have to go through all of these additional steps. It has more to do with that from my
Yeah.
personal opinion and my pattern recognition than it does like the general blanket umbrella of what is a shadow ban versus an action block. And then that also has to do with, again, the policies. So the three policies that have been put into place pre 2020 that are actively affecting shadow bans and action blocks alike would be again the Save Act, which is the 2015 one. That's again, you can't advertise solicitation, and then Sesta Fosta, which allows the federal law enforcement the direct discretion for them to decide what is considered immoral,
Hmm.
and then that also affects anyone who owns or manages or operates an interactive computer service like Instagram is now criminally prosecuted as a third party user for facilitating sexual exploitation. And so that literally comes down to like, in terms of pole dancing, DM me for information, you're soliciting. Check out my link in my bio, you're
Right.
soliciting, and you're
Yeah,
taking people
yeah.
off of the app. Sign up for my classes and my workshops, that's solicitation. They don't separate what you're soliciting, it's just that you are soliciting. um,
Well, I think the
and
difficulty
there
is
are ways
is
to get around that.
there's not a person sat there deciding what sort of this is the issue is that you could just be like, hey, I've written this cute little book about my dog, the link's in my bio. Or you could be saying, I've just posted a video of me taking two dicks at the same time up my ass, link in my bio. And I think the issue is that, you know, I know it sounds so terrible, but I don't blame Instagram. I understand that Instagram are doing this because they don't want to get in the shit either, so they're doing everything that they can to avoid these fucking laws and stuff. Remind me, the Sesta Foster, there was loads of posts. I remember I shared some on
Mhm.
Polos at the time to help. Not that it did much, but what is the update on Sesta Foster? Because wasn't there like loads of repercussion to that? Like people were like protesting on it and stuff. What happened? So nothing happened.
Nothing happens. Yeah, I mean,
Great.
we can see with current protests today that our government would rather demonize free speech than actually promote what's in our constitutional rights. And you can see that with what's happening on college campuses, regardless of what side of this issue that you fall on. Like
Right.
the government itself would rather maintain the status quo than allow for any type of free speech that goes against them. And then, with that being said, a lot of our a lot of our congressmen own stock in Facebook and Meta. And that's again, like if you own this stock, you want to be able to control the narrative. It's the same reason they're trying to ban TikTok. And the
Right.
reasoning again behind their TikTok ban is oh, it's unsafe and for our citizens because the company is owned by what do they say? Basically it's like a foreign entity that is our enemy. When in reality, if you follow the money, China is our biggest trade partner. for
Right.
imports and exports. So you can sit here and tell me all you want that China is this horrible country, what have you. But if it's so horrible, then why are we like the number one traders
Yeah,
with
because
China?
again, I don't really know much about the TikTok thing because obviously it sounds terrible, but I don't actually see much come up about it. More the Americans see all that stuff, but and it's because so they have got to something about TikTok has got to sell a certain amount of
Mm-hmm.
shares or something. Is that correct? And then they'll
Yeah,
be
so
able
they
to keep
want
it in the US. So can you
they
explain it a
want
little bit for
TikTok to
anyone who doesn't
sell.
know?
Yeah, they want TikTok to sell to a US company so that it has to follow US rules so that they can ban and censor what content is able to be seen. And the majority of that is because TikTok was the first place that a lot of people were witnessing and then protesting what was happening in the Middle East currently. And because Israel is considered one of our allies, our current government administration is very active in protecting what they're doing, regardless of what the general population believes. And because they can't control the narrative on TikTok because it's not an American company, they're requiring the company to sell or to be banned in the US entirely. They did in Texas, they did something similar with Pornhub, where you can't access Pornhub at all in the entire state because you would have to age verify every single time you clicked on a new video. And
But
so as
do you think people will just use VPNs to access? Because surely this is the whole thing, isn't it? Like I feel like the general public don't give a fuck what the government say. They're gonna find a way to access it, right? So do you think people are just gonna? I mean, I don't know. Like with Pornhub, for example, I assume can you just use a VPN to get access to it in Texas?
Yeah, so you can just use a VPN, but a lot of American based VPNs are actually working with our government. So they aren't true VPNs. They will still give that information. And then there's also another law that I didn't write down because at this point I didn't think it was relevant. But 2024. No, wait, yeah. No, just kidding. I don't have that law, but there is a law that basically we just put in. I think it's the FISA law. It's currently in discussion, and it requires all internet service providers to give their information over to the government without a warrant. And whether that's a state policing or federal policing, it's still technically against our constitutional right because you can't access my information without a warrant. You can't just come into my home and say that there's evidence everywhere. I didn't give you permission to enter. And so a lot of these laws are also passed with other aspects of different bills that are supposed to be the focus, like they're hidden into things. Like a lot of our, this is another, again, sorry, pre-warning, our recent budget package was specifically meant for, this is for Ukraine support. But there was also 26 million sent over to Israel in the same bill that wasn't discussed. And there's a censorship law that's also put into that bill that wasn't even like that the general public would have had to read the bill themselves to even be told that that was in there. And part of it is just how our government runs, and it's really frustrating. And the other part is just, again, controlling the content so that the citizen, like, because our general government policy is that once a certain percentage of our citizens believe in something, we should be changing our laws to go with the majority of what people believe. And without getting too far into how the government works in the US, because it's a shit show, that's part of the issue. And so basically, like internet-based companies, socials, so to speak, use content-controlled software. And going back to what we were talking about with like the shadow ban versus it's just your content, like you can train software to do anything you want. And we're seeing that again very heavily outside of social media with facial recognition software being used by police, which should not be allowed and is not legally allowed to be used as sufficient evidence, but is still being used to not only racially profile, but to then arrest these people based on a facial recognition software that is not even accurate and literally comes with a warning that you should not be using this as sufficient evidence because it is not. But it doesn't matter. They're still doing it. And so when you're talking about the algorithm The whole point of the algorithm or this content controlled software that these companies are using is to it's to limit the access of the content on its platform, which includes blocking external emails, blocking external websites. It includes like teleproviders limiting data and service bandwidth. Anything across the board can be affected by this software system, and it can be updated at any time, which is why we're seeing so many changes from Instagram. And then just to backtrack a little bit on in terms of like what they're specifically banning, Instagram came straight out and said that they are going to ban political content and make it more difficult, even if you follow those pages, to view that content. And that was a straight statement from them. Yay.
But I mean, but that is, I mean, that is obviously, that's quite obvious with the political stuff, because even some of the political stuff comes up as like sensitive content, you know, when you get that little like still view reel and stuff, and you're like, why was that? I don't understand. And then I assumed it was because it's so much to do with politics. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I find politics so depressing that I just can't even watch any of the news anymore. So it's completely different for me. I know that's, you know, you could say, oh, we're just burying your head in the sand. Honestly, I absolutely agree with you. I totally am, because it's so fucking depressing. Like, I think I'd just kill myself if I kept up to date with it. It's horrible. But so what would your advice be then? So say, for example, someone came to you and was like, well, you know, you're still pretty successful. You're doing really well. You're still traveling, touring, teaching workshops and stuff. How can I do that as well with this shadow ban?
So I'm going to be very honest with everybody. I feel that a lot of my current tours are because I had a name that I made before a lot of the censorship happened. So a lot of the people that I'm getting booked by are studio owners who already knew who I was. But the newer generation, post 2020 babies, they have no idea who I am. They're just showing up because their studio was like, this is going to be a great workshop.
They're like, is she the bitch that posts political content all the time?
They probably can't even find me, because if you type my name in, you have to type the whole name in and then wait 5 minutes to like
so
figure
annoying.
out if I'm real.
Yeah, well, I remember actually trying to search you once, and I thought you'd blocked me. I was like, the bitch has blocked me, and then I realised it's because I hadn't typed your full name in properly, and I was like, oh, okay, fine. But
hilarious. No,
like,
that's real.
I mean,
so
I'll be honest. I know the shadow ban exists. I mean, your stuff barely ever shows up for me, so I know. Don't wrong. I don't. I want anyone who did see my post to know that if I'm being honest, I had to keep that reel as short as possible, because I know how the whole like you can't go over the certain amount of time and stuff, but like it's one of those things, like there are people out there who have shadow bans who are still managing to grow and stuff. How are they doing that?
So it's really just, you have to choose what your purpose is. And for me, my purpose on Instagram is not necessarily marketing. I made that choice way back in 2020. Right. We both come from what I would consider a generation where Instagram wasn't how we made our name. We went to these different locations. We did performances. We did competitions. We made a name for ourselves organically and in person. Yeah. And I think if you're starting now and the point is to be a pole celebrity, you're going to have difficulty, because one, people can tell that it's not a genuine, like you're not being genuine and you're just marketing yourself, what have you. But with that being said, if you're trying to overcome the shadow ban, or if you're just trying to be seen in general, there are a number of things that you can do. The biggest one is that I find super helpful is anytime you can collaborate on a post, do it. You're doubling your visibility and you're doubling your engagement. But then on top of that, if you want to see people, you need to mark them as starred following. Like I want to see these people, they are in my close friends list. And you'll have to recognize that if they're in your close friends list, you're going to have to curb what you're telling people, because now you've just made your close friends list like a public platform instead of just like, these are my actual friends, you know? So close friends will more likely keep those people on your page. The more often you engage with people that you want to see, the more likely they are to show up on your page, in terms of being visible. In terms of me trying to create engagement and what I'm posting, avoid red light, pink light, purple light, anything that would be deemed this is a club environment. Honestly, black and white is going to be your best friend, but it's not the most aesthetically pleasing if it's not done well.
That's funny you say that because again, like throughout this whole process, I've talked to so many people, and so I get so many different opinions because people have said that actually black and white can sometimes, especially if it like silhouettes you, can sometimes be a bit like it'll go one way or the other. I think, and so is this because? Do you think this is because obviously it's kind of making it harder for people to see if someone maybe does have their bum out or doesn't have their bum out? Is that why you think? It's like I
Yeah,
notice a lot of the darker videos for sure. Like you said, if it looks like a club environment, but I actually don't know that it's necessarily anything to do with it being in a club. I think it's more that the bots can't see, so they're like,
mm-hmm.
well, let's ban it. I don't think it's anything to do with necessarily being a club. It could be anywhere that's dark, but if they think the content might be sexual, it gets flagged up. It's funny because like Hella Heels was saying they don't post any ads now or any posts where bum is showing because they're the posts that always get banned for them. Have you noticed any correlation between your posts that get banned and the posts that don't? Have you noticed any like this is probably getting banned because of this and this one isn't because of this?
Angle makes a huge difference. I know that we all like to look tall, but that's also an upskirt. That's an upskirt
Right.
shot, and so that's most likely to get banned because you're angling specifically at your genitalia, you dumb whore. So upskirt shots and the lighting cues specifically. If you want to be safe, blue is really safe. Any type of blue mixed with purple, super safe. The closer you get to the pinks and the reds, that's where you're going to get it. Just one, it makes generally skin tones of all skin tone look better. And that's why we like it in the club because I look cute. But it's also more likely to get banned because it's highlighting the differences between like your black outfit and your skin tone. If you want to wear a full nude outfit, then you're better going with black and white. If you are a sexy style pole dancer, any of the stripper style wear that is like a full body suit, like basically a full body, what are the hose that have like fishnets? There we go. Full body fishnet will actually help with this because it will recognize that you have a pattern from head to toe, even though it's scandalous as shit. And then you just have to worry about whether the bum aspect is out and how much of that you're showing. Any type of like licking the pole, handies on the pole, any type of sexually suggestive, self-touching situation is going to be more likely to be flagged, especially if you're public. One, because there are just trolls on the internet who are going to flag your content.
Right. I was
And then
about
on
to say about that because there's no like how on earth, I mean maybe there is, I don't know, but like I feel like that's the sort of stuff that you would have to, like if someone was licking a lollipop and then they were licking a pole, how is the computer kind of defining the difference? But I 100% think that a lot of this is still reporting. And I'll tell you why, because someone actually, literally, I was just chatting to, he's a PT actually, he's not even a pole dancer, but he had someone report his content and he posted and I was like, whoever reported this, like, what was the point? And literally all I did was say this, but, and I said to him, I said, last time I did that, whoever it was, they've got loads of other people, and then all of a sudden, loads of others started getting reported. I was like, these fuckers. So now I don't ever complain online because I'm just like, people will just go out of their way. Do you know why? Because they just want to see how you're going to react. They want to get a reaction out of you. That's what it is, which is so fucking annoying, but it works, doesn't it?
We're such a supportive community.
I hate when people start saying shit like that. I'm like, really? Are we though?
It's yeah, so all of that is definitely making a difference. There are obviously just people who are trolling, but the reality is too, like the music that you choose and how it shows up, like how clear is your music? If you can put your phone further away from your speaker system so that it sounds a little bit more echoey, as a dancer, it annoys the shit out of me because I want that musicality to be clear. But as an Instagram bot, I can like, it will be able to tell that there's an echo and a reverb happening in the background. You're less likely to get pinged for music copyright. And then I've said this a million times. As a side note, anytime you get pinged for music copyright, you tell them that you own everything on this video and you are protected by your intellectual property of choreography. I don't even give a shit if it's a freestyle. They're not reading your caption. They're just looking to ban the content. But choreographers have intellectual property rights that trump music property rights because the whole point of choreography is that we have created this movement specifically to this song. And that is our own intellectual property that you can't just take away from us. If anytime you put, oh my God, this one drives me nuts. I don't own any of the copyrights in this song, blah, blah, blah. Please don't block me. Bitch, you're asking for it. Like, at that point, you
But
just
also,
told
that
them
doesn't
that
do
this
anything,
is
does it? That actually doesn't do
no,
anything.
no, it doesn't protect you in any way, shape, or form because they're not necessarily like they're looking for. It's kind of like how your phone you can go through and be like, oh, auto change this word anytime this one is typed out, and it's meant to help people who like can't spell very well. Like, oh, if I spell duck, please put that back to fuck, like
Yeah.
that type of a situation. So recognizing that our phones can gauge those word choices, what you put in your caption and how you put it in your caption really makes a difference. So if you know that you're marketing things and you know that this is an advert, the less you can put, unless it's a specific infographic with your face in a reel and you're just like adding little bits, kind of how you would with like 4 ways to stand up from a sit, what have you, and then those words go away. That's very helpful. But if you're posting like, hey, here's just a sentence, or in your bio, like, here, these are all these words that I'm saying, and come to my class, solicitation, 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 you're more likely to get blocked because the computer software system is
The
looking for
keywords.
specific words.
Yeah, sure. Do you, when
And
people
then
put link in my bio and they'll put like BI and then the number O and stuff, do you think that works? Because again,
it does work.
you think it
If you
does?
separate them with periods, it works better because again, like the algorithm and the computer software system is updating with each of these changes that we're making. Like, it's not like they're not recognizing that we're going around their system. They're purposefully watching how we're going around their
Sure.
system, and then they're blocking it at a
Of
later
course.
date.
Yeah,
Um,
which of course they probably are going to have to, aren't they? Because they have to keep up with all the different shit that we try to do to get around it. But do you think do you think there is a way for us as a community to avoid these shadow bans, like to avoid getting our content banned? Because what do you think about as well, like just other little things? I've noticed a lot of pole dancers wearing bodysuits now, wearing full body coverage. The problem is that really means that the only ones who get to benefit from that are people who aren't stripper style. Because if a stripper style pole dancer puts on fucking these cool, I know they look cool, and I know they look cool because I wear them too, like the baggy pants and stuff. It looks cool, but it doesn't look cool with stripper style. It looks cool with hard style and like all those sort of styles. It looks great with those, but stripper style is what it says
yep.
on the tin. You're expecting that sort of sexiness, and fucking baggy pants they're not sexy, right? They're cool, but they're not sexy. So,
Yeah.
but this is the thing, and this is why I just feel like it's such a minefield. And like you said as well, maybe it's because this person lives in a different country. I look at sometimes Doris Arnold's content, and I think she may as well be naked. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Doris, and like I think she's the hottest thing ever. When you just think, wow, like, and she'll get a lot of engagement on these posts, and I just think, I wonder if is that because she's just slipped through the net? Is it because she's in a different country? Is it because she's not used to that hashtag? It's so many unknowns. I feel like people need to spend less time worrying about what's going to get them banned and just exist on the internet with the intention that hopefully it's not going to get flagged. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, what can you do? Like,
Oh, hold on. Trying to reconnect. There we go.
I can still hear you.
Okay. So yeah, there honestly part of it is that Doris is in a different country, and that's just facts. Again, the EU protects its citizens much better than America does. But then I would also urge people to look at like what type of engagement is she getting, or are we getting? Like, I know that my followers are 95% women, and I don't usually engage with men specifically unless they're also within the community or they're other artists based in other variations, photographers, painters, circus people, what have you. But I find too that a lot of the engagement that is consistent is more often to come from random men on femme profiles. And so that's just again, you have to make a choice. Who's your market and who are you trying to market towards, and what are you engaging with on your own, and what are you then engaging with on your posts.
Right.
So like if weird men are like great tits or whatever, I'm not going to delete that, because it is engagement, and you're right, I do have great
engagement,
tits,
honey.
thank you, amen. But I'm not going to respond or reply to that one. I'm only going to reply to the other people within the industry.
Right.
And then
like
another
if I
thing
say
that
you've got
will
nice tits, that warrants a reply.
fire.
Absolutely. Like, share on stories. Of course, but like if a weird man does, I think, yeah, it's just, I feel like we've just gotten to a point where we just can't gauge it. I think you just have to, that sounds terrible, but we just have to accept it for what it is at this point. Do you know what I mean? We just have to be like, it is what it is. What can we do?
I will say another thing that I've noticed people starting to share that I've personally never had success with. Who was it? Oh, my ADHD is so bad. I think it's Adam Lynn. Adam Lynn just shared a post about utilizing currently trending music on Instagram. You are more likely to get a music ban by doing that.
See, this is, again, I think this might be a US/EU thing. Since I stopped using my own music on my videos and I use the Instagram music, the only time I get flags is if it's telling me that it can't be shown in Belarus and Russia. Well, let me tell you, the Russians don't give a fuck about what I'm posting. You know what I mean? So I'm just a bit like, that doesn't really bother me. I don't have one Russian student as far as I'm aware. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and obviously because of the war and stuff, they've been very much cut off from being able to like pay people outside Russian stuff and all that jazz, you know. So I kind of I'm not really bothered by that. But yeah, that's the only thing I get. But when I do put music on myself, that sometimes it gets taken down, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I've got to put the music over. But I find if I put the music over, it stops it from doing that. But again, because you're not the only person to have said that to me. I hear other people talking about it, but I feel like you might be right. It's the country to country thing. Sorry, I'm really conscious of the time, and I've got one more thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, because it's the one thing that I hate that people always love going to. When I made this post, a friend of mine actually commented, Holly, and said, you know, it's much easier being a man on the internet. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so pre-2020, I would have agreed with that, because I was one of the first people who made that comment, like, hey, if you just change your profile to male, then it's okay, because they were primarily blocking women from posting sexually explicit content. But they weren't blocking male photographers. Like, they would block the models, but not the male photographers from the same content. And this is before collaborations. Post 2020, it doesn't make a difference. Right. You can be whatever. I will say though, again, in America, sometimes the creator aspect versus the business aspect, you are more likely to get more options through a creator profile than you are through a business profile. And you're more likely to get blocked on a business profile because they recognize that you're making advertisements for your business and they want you to pay for that. Right. So if you are a studio, make sure that you're choosing either a personal account, which is not really great because it doesn't come with a lot of options, or the creator account over the business one, because creators are people who are getting paid partnerships, and the businesses are the ones who are paying for those adverts, and they want you to pay. But in terms of male,
see,
female,
I've got a really weird
or
opinion about that. I'm happy to pay. Like, this is, I mean, mine's a creator account, but like, I actually feel like, and this is one of my theories, again, nothing proven, but I don't have any flags on my account, and I find that I don't really get flagged up for very much because I spend so much money on advertising with Instagram and Facebook. I've got a few different profiles that through Meta, I run ads. I must spend at least $500 or $600 a month on ads. So I just think maybe that's why, because I wouldn't want to block someone who was spending $600 a month. I mean, in terms of Meta ads, that's probably nothing to them, but still, it's a decent amount of money which they're getting off me that probably they're not getting off of the average user, right?
Yeah, that's over $7,000 US.
Right.
And if you're paying in British pounds, then you also have the conversion rate. So you're actually paying a 1.5 times that. So you're paying
Exactly.
closer to $10,000 to Meta. So it definitely makes a difference if you have the ability to pay that. What we have in the US, and also what I find in the UK, which is so crazy to me, and also like every other industry can claim inflation except pole dancing, I guess. Um, makes me so angry. But a lot of the middle of the country, especially for the US, they're barely surpassing yoga based class rates. So we're barely making $10, $20 on a class per person. There's no way that those studios can continue to exist and pay $7,000 to marketing. And so part of that is
Oh, this
true.
is
It
this
is
is a whole other can of worms, I tell you, because I literally have got a post that I'm still in the process of editing, so I want to be really careful on how I word it because um, it's something that as pole dancers, I feel like the reason why that's happening is because we're getting one studio that sets a certain price, and maybe that is still quite competitive. And then one of their students is going and setting up another studio and they're undercutting them. And then one of their students is going off and undercutting them. And it's reducing. And
a
we're
race to the
reducing these
bottom.
price. Yeah, it's a race to the bottom. And it's that whole thing of like, but prices of everything else are going up, guys. There has to be a point where you say, we can't actually run this business on this amount. But the problem now is that in the UK, especially, I don't know if this is why I was making the post, because I really wanted to know what the deal was worldwide. So it's actually kind of good to hear that it's very similar in the US in a weird way. But like in the UK, we've lost minimum, it must have been 3 or 4 studios within the last, 6 months. Minimum, we've lost 4 that I know of. And there might be some that I don't know of that have just stopped. And it's because they can't afford to anymore. We're not like, this is the thing with yoga, you can cram quite a lot of people into that space. You've got a yoga mat that you're paying for. When you're paying for an actual metal pole and you can only really let 2 people share it, let's be real, and these studios, oh my God, these studios that do 1 per pole. Wow. The fact that
I don't know
you
how they
can
do
do
it.
that, how are they
I don't
doing
know
it?
how.
That is crazy. That's
Yeah, I
like,
have no idea.
I find actually sometimes a lot of the time with that, it's because they've managed to get a really good rent deal. But let me tell you, that rent deal, it won't stay around for long because the landlords eventually will get greedy because they all do. They all do. Let's be
Hmm.
honest. Or it might be that, you've got this good rent deal right now because their mortgage isn't due for another 5 years. But when it's due, what are you
It's
going to
going
do
to go
then?
up. Yeah.
And now you've treated all your students this 1 per pole. And then when you tell them, listen, guys, we're going to have to go to 2 per pole and charge you the same price, your business is done for. Crazy.
Yep.
But I mean, that's a
Well,
whole
not only
separate
that, but
topic.
comparing yoga to pole dancing, like we're a specialty skill. Our insurance as a studio alone, let alone as an instructor, is 10 times higher. That's just a random number, is exorbitantly higher than a yoga studio that is ground based movement that you
Right.
don't necessarily even need a real certification for. Not that we need, not that the pole industry is really great with their certification processes, anyways. But just looking at the level of skill and the risk aversion, like it is difficult in the US to get any type of insurance to even cover you if you also have aerial or if your poles are higher than 9.5 feet or 12 feet, what have you. And then you also have the issue of like, if I have a friend who's currently trying to just expand and do business, quote unquote, the right way. And so she's trying to get her administrator workers comp and to put her on a proper payroll instead of making them just an independent contractor. And she can't do that because she's a circus and aerial studio. And
Mm,
they want all of her independent contractors to also be listed under her workers comp, even though they're not employees. And it's not legal
right.
to do that in the state. And so if you're comparing our pricing to yoga and that's what you're making the point of, like, you're undercutting the industry. And I don't care how much you sit here and tell me that you respect what we do, you don't, because you have not even thought about how much goes into our own training, your own training, but the business aspect of that in person brick and mortar space. You
Yeah.
have not even considered that, and you would rather undercut your competitors because that's what you think community is,
No,
than
I don't think that's why they're doing it. I think they're doing it because that's what they consider to be competitive business. But
it's not.
it's not. It's like we've lost this principle of, you can actually charge the same price. Maybe you can even charge more, and all you got to do is offer a better service than the other place. You don't have to undercut them. But I
But
feel
that's the
like,
issue, right? Is
yeah, that's the
a
issue.
lot of a lot of times I find that studios that split, what have you, and eventually, and the goal is eventually, because I feel like we've all been there. When we all started, there was like, especially Paul, with how new the industry is, it's still a baby industry compared to other companies,
Absolutely.
corporations, even circus in itself. Like, we all were students that just became teachers that maybe then all opened a studio because we wanted to do something different. But then if you trust that what you're doing differently is better for the community, then the community will show up for you. And if it doesn't, then that's okay too. It's okay to fail and close down and cut your losses before it's too late. But undercutting the entire community that you're in a part of so that you can be competitive is not the way to go, because you're not respecting the industry, you're not respecting yourself and what you're offering, and you're not even respecting your client base, because you would assume that they just want you because you're cheap, instead of that you're offering something that you didn't find at your previous studio. And it's really frustrating because I like my students that are doing this, like, I really want you to be successful. I want you to succeed as a teacher to student relationship. Like, this is amazing. But as a teacher watching students become teachers with no interest in expanding their knowledge base, they just are excited to be teaching. And these other studios are allowing it and then also undercutting the rate. Like, how are you even paying your instructors at this point, let alone your mortgage? And so it doesn't, and then that's again going to bring it back into social media. You have to choose what your point is. Like, who's the audience you're going for? What is the point of your post? And what are you trying to accomplish with either your Instagram and your social media presence, or with the presence that you have in your brick and mortar space?
Yeah.
It's just, it's really frustrating to feel like we're not having these cognitive thought processes with ourselves, let
Yeah.
alone as an industry.
Yeah, for
Like, I
sure.
don't know. It's frustrating. It's
It's
frustrating to
I feel
witness.
like just we are in such a transitional period with the industry at the moment, and I'm really, it sounds so terrible. I'm just really intrigued to see how it kind of pans out. Not in a like, oh, I want to see how everyone fails, not like that. I mean, just like, I'm intrigued to see what actually happens, because we absolutely cannot keep going like this. But
No.
yeah, I just feel like people ask me all the time, they're like, "Oh, what are you gonna?" Because I moved from where my studio is. I moved up north, and people are like, "Are you gonna open a studio there?" I'm like, and there was a period where I was thinking about it, and now I'm like, no, I don't think I'd ever open another studio. The studio I have, I'm very lucky with. It's small, it makes a little bit of money, and it's relatively low maintenance, but it's tiny. It's
It
tiny.
supports itself.
It's just small. It's cute. 6 poles, tiny little room inside like a community center. It's very humble. Like, but I just know that many studios are struggling. Some of these people are having to work other jobs just to pay their rent, and I'm like, that's not how businesses should work for me. I just don't.
No, I
If
agree.
your business is not making enough money for you to live off of it, it's not your business. It's a
It's a hobby
charity.
job.
It's, yeah,
It's a
it's a
hobby
fucking
job. Yep.
charity at this point. What, like, why don't you just go to another studio? Do you know what I mean? And train there, like let it go at that point. Listen, I'm gonna stop us there, because you and I have this toxic trait that we could literally do a fucking, I could feel like I could do a 5 hour podcast with you. We're ridiculous.
Oh, easy.
And I think our last one was like an hour and a half or something. But yeah, listen, thank you so much for joining me. I love talking to you. I always love talking to you. I have so much respect for you as a pole dancer. I want you to tell everyone who is listening to this right now your Instagram profile, where else they can find you, because a bitch is shadow banned as fuck. So make sure you go and follow her. Give them your deets.
It's literally just my name across almost all platforms, at Jordan Kensely, with no spaces, no additives. My backup account on Instagram is jordan.kensley. And technically, I still have a TikTok, even though they don't let me access it. So I will post zero things there. But you can also follow me on TikTok, also at Jordan Kensely. And I think my Twitter, I have two. Jordan Kensely and Jordan_Kensely. It's all just my name. The only thing I wasn't able to get was the freaking email, which is so frustrating.
That sucks. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you. And I hope I'll get to see you soon, my van life friend.
Oh my gosh, enjoy your van. I'm so excited for you. Tell me how it is.
Oh, of
it's
course
going to
I
be
will.
great.
I'll be messaging you, asking you for all the advice.
Oh, yes, please. I've been stalking van life since like the early 2010s as a general goal. And then COVID happened and I was like, this is it. And then I was like, okay, this is not it. and then like 2021 is when I was like, I'm doing it. I don't care. And it's amazing. 10 out of 10. If you feel like you have any type of a gypsy soul, I recommend.
I'm definitely going to be hitting you up, and anyone else who is interested in van life, make sure you follow Jordan, because Jordan posts about her van life and you will be hearing all about mine very soon. But thank you so much, Jordan. I will speak to you again soon. Lots of love to you.
Bye.
Wow. We had so much that we could have talked about in that episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. We missed so many different things, but what else do you want to know? Let us know by commenting on the post on the Polls page. We're super excited to hear your questions, and maybe we can answer them. Until next time, bye.
That was all the tea that you can get this week. Join me next time right here. It's the Weekly Tea.